What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the Young Hungry Show. So in today's episode, we brought on two business partners who took the typical 4-year business route to, get their degree in engineering at the University of Washington. But eventually, when they were about like 20 years old, young guys, they started self-educating themselves on real estate. They wanted to take a different journey in life. And after a while, they eventually started successfully and independently actually selling successful real estate investment properties. And after a while, they started their own company called Vozy, which is a real estate investment and consulting company based out of Seattle, which has experienced tremendous growth over the years and also gained a ton of respect over the last few years. And so we're super honored to have you guys on today. You guys, how we doing?
Welcome on the show. How we
doing? Thank you. We're honored to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a blessing.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So, obviously you guys are in real estate, and I think there's a ton of kids, in today's generation that are super, interested in real estate. With all the social media, it makes it look like, oh, if you're in real estate, you have nice cars, you got big houses, you have like all this stuff, right? And it makes it look kind of easy, right? Mm-hmm. But what would you say to someone that's like a younger person, right, like 18 through like 23, who's like, I'm interested in real estate, but I don't really like know how it works. So what would you say to someone that's like has that persona but doesn't really know how it actually is?
Well, so at least the barrier to entry to getting into real estate isn't very difficult, right? So the first one is if you want to be an agent, you just have to get your license. And in order to do that, all you have to do is be 18, take a 90-hour class, and pass the test, right? So you could do all that under $1,000, right? Right. And so it's pretty doable for most people. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll be successful, but it's a good kind of indication and start to kind of get the ball rolling and see if that's something that would be easy for you to do or not.
And as far as it goes, the way we look at real estate is from a very like long-term perspective. So the advice that, I would give somebody that's like, in that younger kind of age range, trying to get into the industry is apply a long-term marathon perspective mentality to this industry and constantly be learning. Whether, as Qasim mentioned, you want to get into the industry as a real estate agent, or you want to, be a wholesaler, or you want to, source other people's capital and do your own flip, whatever it may be, continually self-educate and continually expand your network of folks that are in the industry. And as long as you keep doing that, you're just going to get information, you're going to get data, and you're going to have a lot more of these aha moments, so to speak. And the kind of the culmination of that is going to lead to clarity on how you want to run your business. So it just takes time, but I think the two most important things are just consistency and creating network.
Definitely. I feel like, especially with social media, everyone sees the end product, like you guys with your successful business, or whether it be John Doe with his successful business, or how he's successful he is, right? And I feel like people don't get like it takes time, it takes grind.
Sure.
I bet behind closed doors, you guys are putting your heads down and grinding, right? Because it's not like an overnight thing where you build your company like this, right?
I mean, we began in 2016, and it wasn't, we began in 2016. And we're now in the beginning of 2021 feeling like, okay, now we're starting to feel the fruits of our labor. You see what I'm saying? It's like 5 years later, now we're starting to feel like, okay, we got this. We're on a roll. And it's like, we have a lot more clarity. We understand, who to go to for what. We have an ecosystem that's built out. We have a network now. But it took 5 years to get to this point. And it's like, even like, there's, obviously moments within the 5-year journey where there are these high inflection points that happen. But like you said, behind closed doors, there are these moments where you have weeks and months that go by without, a single payment. And you're trying to figure out, how to hustle your next, pay. And, that type of lifestyle can be stressful for some, but, it's sticking to it and knowing that there is a result that's going to await you, like that you can't see just yet, but you just have to have faith in, what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to talk about how did you start, let's change the subject, but how did you guys self-educate yourself about real estate? Because a lot of people like are not able to do that. Like, how did you guys, as young guys, I don't know how old you guys were, maybe in like your early 20s, right? Like somewhere around there, and started self-educating yourself. How did you guys do that and then independently, like, and successfully started your own company? Like, how did you guys do this as young guys?
So, I mean, we finished college around like our 2021, right? And then we went and worked for like at least 3-4 years and just like just regular jobs, right? Like we were working at tech companies and learning all these different skills there, right? And so that's preparing us not necessarily specifically for real estate or business, but just how to interact with people and all these different skills that you learn in the corporate world, right? And so that's kind of the beginning of it. But how it all really started was that I had originally bought a house, and I'd kind of asked Reeve if he wanted to kind of come in on with it with me, right? And he was like, yeah, it's cool, right? And so this was just kind of like just something we did, and then we kind of just decided, you know what, like this real estate thing is really cool. We want to get more into it, and so we actually both left our jobs and just started like going to networking meetings, talking to people, just researching all day, making calls. Like,
yeah, that's super impressive how you guys were able to
but
just like leave your
to kind of
jobs
add
like
on
that.
to what he was saying, right? So it was always so to dial it back, for me personally, ever since I was 7, 8 years old, I'm not sure what it was, but there was this instinct that I wanted to be a business person and I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like whether it was the movies I saw or whatever it was, there was always a fascination with being an entrepreneur that I romanticized to that idea. Now, moving forward, being immigrant kids, not having, like entrepreneurial, family members that you can directly look to, for example, that we felt that, that idea was just kind of, or that mentality was just kind of put in the back burner, and we took the traditional, path towards success, and that was, going to college and, getting that engineering degree and getting the, the coveted 6-figure salary income and feeling like you're set. And it was during that period we're learning a lot of skills in the corporate world, making, a good, better money than we were in college or high school. And we had gotten to a point where we're doing a lot of education on just YouTube videos, just watching people, seeing how other successful entrepreneurs were doing it, reading a lot of books. Like it wasn't just a thing where we're like, oh, real estate, it makes sense. It was just a combination of reading a lot of books. So there was that moment that Qasim mentioned where, in 2015, there was this house. He was like, he was going to buy it. And then, he just asked me to come in on that property. And at that time, we didn't know anything. We didn't know much about real estate. We just knew we're making money. Everybody says you're supposed to invest in real estate. Okay, let's just do that. Right. And we did that. And then, so 2015 to 2016, that was kind of the year where, both of us were feeling like, man, this whole corporate life, it isn't for us. Mm-hmm. We got to do something different. So upon kind of reading, reading a lot about, what type of business do we launch? What type of product or service are we going to put into the marketplace? And really just kind of thinking about that led us to the epiphany that, well, real estate is the biggest product that exists. Exactly. And there isn't anything, like new. That's when I say new, there isn't anything like different that's being done. Like you don't have to be too innovative. The product already exists. There's the blueprint for how it's done. There's always going to be someone to buy the property or sell the property or lease the property out. And there are some logistics in the middle. So that's all we knew. And then we knew that we bought this house in 2015, and come 2016, when we decided to quit, that property had appreciated like 60, 70 grand. Yeah. And we're like, man, we kind of made money without doing anything. All we did was buy, hold, and a year later, this property is worth this much more. So there's that. And we just figured, we've been in these, like technology companies, like he's at Intel, I'm on Microsoft, later Accenture. We're helping pushing out these billion-dollar products. Mm-hmm. It's like, and these are like not, physically tangible products. These are software products that are, launching. And if we felt the confidence in knowing how, information flows through that type of ecosystem where things are just not physically tangible, we figured why not apply those exact same skill sets and take it to this new industry that we don't know much about yet, but we can, do something with it. And as Qasim mentioned, we originally, it all began by me reading this book called Flip by Nick Ruiz. Mm-hmm. And that just kind of blew my mind about the possibilities that real estate had. And honestly, that book was enough for me to...
That's where it kind of changed it.
That was a tipping point. I had been doing a lot more research about real estate prior, but that book was definitely the tipping point that made me realize, maybe there's something to it. I can see myself doing this. And I started talking to Qasim about it. We were both in the real estate game already because we bought a house. Right. Yeah. And we figured, there's something to this. And, we just quit our jobs. And it wasn't easy, by any means. Like the first few months,
people are able to just quit their jobs like that. Yeah,
exactly.
But I really like what you said though about how when you were like a younger kid, you had that intuition of like, I am a businessman. Yeah. Like you were a young guy, right? Yeah. Like a lot of kids might feel that way, but not a lot of people are willing to put in the work like you guys did, like reading a ton of books and self-educating yourself like you guys did, and actually going out there and networking. So I mean, that's super impressive to even hear that. Like that gives me like chills even hearing, because I'm like,
no,
like
definitely.
We appreciate it. And I think that it's cool because like if it gives you chills, it means that you're that type of person too, because you feel it intuitively, like, man, it's in my spirit to.
I can feel you guys' energy. It's like you guys are some hustlers, right? So
Yeah.
I love that. So I actually want to know, this is something I'm really curious about. In your guys' business, in Vozy, and just in life in general, what kind of people do you guys strive to surround yourself with? Because, I mean, obviously in your guys' business, you got to surround yourself with other winners, right? Because you want to be building your business, and you guys are obviously, leaders, right? So you want to be around other leaders. So what kind of people do you guys strive to surround yourself with, would you say?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we want to be around people with good energy, people who are supportive, and people who are trying to empower themselves to do better in the world too, right? Like, we want to be around people who are mission centric, right? People who are not just here for they're just here for the fun, right? They want to have some sort of goal and purpose, and everyone's striving toward that same purpose, right? And it's so easy when you meet someone like that. It's like instant, like right when I first met you at the gym, it was like, oh, I know this guy's young, but like he's got that same energy. So I was like really excited and happy to meet you. Absolutely. So
ultimately, I
appreciate
think
that, man.
Like for us, it's about kindness. I think kindness is probably one of the most underrated or under spoken about qualities of people. And I think we try to surround ourselves with kind folks. We do our best to not differentiate anybody based off of their socioeconomic status or money or material things that they can show outward. And ultimately it starts with respect for us. Both of us come from very, very humble beginnings. Like both of our parents grew up in villages in two different sides of the world, back home. And if you ever meet our parents, you'll see.
Wait, sorry to interrupt you. I want to ask, where did you guys' families immigrate from, just real quick? Where did you guys come from?
I'm Tamil, which is my ethnic identity. These are so my people are like South India, North Sri Lanka people.
Okay, got you.
And Tamil is actually the oldest language in the world as well. And there's a lot of history behind it that I'm deeply proud of. But so that's what I am. I'm
really
Tamil,
cool.
and there is a lot of cultural relevance to my present day actions that I kind of go about, that I attribute back to my my heritage. And Qasim is the same way. He's so
I'm from Pakistan. My family's Sindhi. So
okay, yeah.
That's where we're from. I was actually born here. My mom came here when she was like basically 8.5 months pregnant, just like being born on this side.
Whoa.
But, right?
For like a better life.
Yeah, I mean, my dad was already here. He was going to pharmacy school here, so he came here to kind of like start up things here and give for a better life for his family, right? And so my mom was just finishing up moving over here, and then she came over here. So.
And like I come from like a tougher tough environment in the sense that it's like my folks. Originally, my dad immigrated to the United States, in search of a better, opportunity. A few years after he was in this country, he brought the rest of the family over. I was born back home. Okay. I moved here when I was around like 8 years old. And ever since coming to the United States, it was always this, like I've lived in, small apartments with another family, sharing a bathroom. Like, I've gone through that type of immigrant.
Absolutely.
Like that was my initial start to the United States. Yeah. And when, everybody, like at least like back home when they think, oh, I'm going to America, I'm in the land of abundance, opportunity. Yeah. But coming here as a child, and I'm the oldest in my family as well, I experienced firsthand what what struggle can be. And this is before Google Maps and like you can just figure out how to pay your taxes online, TurboTax and all this. Seeing how my parents navigated this space without any sort of cultural knowledge was always something that I saw. So to answer your question about what type of people do you surround yourself with, just hardworking people that are genuinely kind. And I think when you have that attribute, like no matter what you do, you can always gain respect from folks.
Absolutely.
So that's just that's just how we stick to it. And we attribute a lot of that to the lessons our parents taught us.
Yeah. Definitely. I love that humble beginning part, just because like you guys are living proof, right? You come from somewhere where it's not that great, right? To building your successful company, right? And I love that. I feel like that's what we preach to the audience we have, right? Just like, hey, if you guys can do it, then anyone can do it, right? Exactly. That's what I love. But going back to the questions, I want to ask you guys, like, how do you guys like get past objections, problems in the company? Because I really like want to know, like 5 years was a long time, right? Like, why couldn't you go back to your tech or the tech job, right?
That's the thing, right? We started. It took us 7 months before we even like
made our first
got our first check ever. So during that time, like I had cashed out my 401k, I'm like maxing out my credit cards and everything, and I'm just like, check's coming soon, whatever, right? And like literally every single time some sort of like bill was due, some deal may have came to fruition. So it's like we had this patience, but it was like a blood, sweat, and tears type thing, right? Like earlier you used to talk about overnight success, right? The way we saw it is if it was an overnight success, it was a long night, right?
5-year night.
Right? Like it was almost at the 2-year mark where things were stable enough where we could just like, at least for me, that we could just like not have to be like looking behind my back for like, who's the creditor coming after me? Who's like someone, it's like it was that time, right? And so like, and then even now we're still building, and like it just takes patience, dedication, like just like trust that like whatever is to be provided for you will be provided, because you got to just put in that work.
Yeah, I mean, and to answer your question, there was a lot of like, objections that weren't just internal, right? There was a lot of external objections that were projected onto us. And, and I think there is definitely I know we're like maybe like, 10 or so years older than you guys, but there's a generational gap between even these 10 or so years. I think, what I love about kind of the Gen Z generation is that the hustle, entrepreneurship, being creative, like just being yourself and authentic is encouraged, and it's part of the new generation, and I'm just so happy to see that. But kind of the millennial generation, like the way we grew up, especially in a place like Seattle, I don't think it was equipped for entrepreneurs or creatives. And the idea of success when you're in college is like, when you're in high school is like, you go to college, you get that good job,
get good grades,
get a good job. It's always get a good job. Get a good job.
When you're 65.
Yeah. And it's always like, there's all this kind of set that we subscribe to that mentality, as I mentioned. And when we decided, we're gonna quit and we're gonna like go into this full time. Actually, there was this moment. So we were in the corporate world for a little bit, but there was this very particular moment that I remember in the corporate world that like changed my perspective, right? And it was one of my mentors in the corporate world that told me, look, if you want to be successful in the corporate world, you can only have 2 of 3 things, but not all 3. Right? And those 3 things are, you can have that success and you can have that climb in the corporate ladder where you go from developer to senior developer to director to executive. Okay. That's one thing. The second thing is you can have good, physical and mental health. Second thing. Okay. Third thing, good family/social life. Okay. Between these 3 things, pick 2. That's what you get in the corporate world. So if you want to, climb up the ladder up in the corporate world, you're gonna have to sacrifice either your health or your social/family life. And if you want to keep your health and your family, then you should be okay not climbing the ladder. And I'm not saying this is an absolute for everybody, but the way my personality works and the way I work, like I thought about that deeply, and I'm like, man, like I'm one of those people that can only have 2 of these 3 things, the way I'm wired and the way my DNA is built. So that was a huge triggering point that allowed us to not feel the objections. And but yeah, I mean, there's definitely stories about folks that had known us as engineers, like not as a rapper, not as an entrepreneur, not as a community member, and they had just put us in a box of this is who we are. So when we projected to the world, hey, we're stepping out of this box and being such and such, there was definitely resistance from folks that couldn't see us as that, because we hadn't given them the proof yet to put us in that box, to put us in a different box.
Right.
And one of the biggest lessons we learned throughout this journey is that people care a lot less. It's like you would worry a lot less what people think about you when you realize how seldom they do, right? And that was one of my biggest lessons, is that you tend to project your failures a lot more than other people think about your failures.
People actually care.
Because people got their own lives. They have their own things to worry about. And when you can truly develop that sense of empathy for others, like, what, someone might be, considering me a certain way, but that's just because of the context that they grew up with. And you just tend to disassociate from other people's opinions, because you realize even if they think negatively about me, that's only like a couple minutes if I'm lucky.
That's
Who
very
cares?
true. Yeah.
I'm moving on. I'm not thinking about other people's lives as much.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
It's like once you develop that mindset of like, hey, like,
and keep in mind, none of this was easy by any means, and we're still constantly working towards making this mentality stronger. But that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And I think to answer your question about objections, it just comes from a deep-rooted sense of faith that I'm gonna try it, and I'm gonna fall in love with this journey, and I don't care about the results.
Definitely.
When you can put yourself in that mentality, then it's like, objections what? You know what
exactly.
I mean?
It's that why factor that really just drives you each and every day to like when you have those dry spells like months at a time, you're like, but at the same time, I feel like even proving people wrong, right? People at that corporate job, like, oh, watch me be successful.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That was a huge point. I really like that though, about like, hey, once you realize like how seldom people actually think about like you, then you start to realize well, like to the places you can go. Because I feel like at our age, especially, a lot of people are thinking about, oh, like what is he thinking about me? Like if I do this, like if I do that, is he gonna think this about me, right? Like a lot of people take action based on what other people are gonna think about them. So I love that point. Once you have that breakthrough of, hey, like not these people, like they have their own lives. They're not really thinking about like what I'm doing. Like I should just live my own life without any worry about what anyone else is gonna think, right?
Yeah.
And so I like that I love that you guys were able to break through that. That's such an inspiration.
Right.
So, you know, with your guys' ambition level and where you guys want to go in life and your guys' you know, massive goals that you guys have for your guys' business and everything, what would you recommend to someone who, no matter what their age is, but they want to go high in life, they want to achieve big things? How do people set goals, and like how do people surround themselves with good people and, you know, achieve those goals in general without just setting them? Like how can people really like get to where they want to get to in life? What would you recommend to people?
I mean, that's definitely, you know, there is no one right answer to that question. And I think and I don't want to generalize just because everybody's, you know, context in life is different and how they go through things. You know, how one person deals with haters can be different than how another person deals with haters, because the other person's haters might actually be bullies and you know, like there might be like different stigmas that you might not understand. But I think overall, like to anybody, I think the kind of the general rules towards success is, you know, be nice to yourself, be kind, and attach a long-term perspective to whatever your goals are going to be. If you feel that, hey, you have this super audacious goal, right, and it's going to take this much, you mentally decide it's going to take me this much effort to, you know, accomplish this, be okay with multiplying that effort by 10. And then asking yourself, okay, am I still gonna want this? Am I still gonna do this? Am I still gonna have the patience to stay consistent with my journey? And I would say, you know, just constant, you know, the perspective of you know, falling in love with the journey rather than the result is huge as well. And do things that you truly like to do and continue to expand on those things. And because if you're just doing something like, because if you're doing something because you see the end result of that thing looks enticing, then when you put in the work for what gets to the end result, you're not going to be as happy. You need to make sure that the thing that you do to get to the end result,
happy on the journey as well.
Exactly.
It's all about being grateful and gratitude,
absolutely,
right? Because like you see these guys, millionaires, billionaires. Yeah. They're not happy though.
100%.
You know?
Let me tell you a story too, because I remember, like, you know, and this is like how it was toward the beginning. Like there would be, you know, times where, you know, we're meeting a property owner at, you know, like they set an appointment with us at like 7 a.m. on a Saturday, and you know, like we would wake up and it would be like in Everett, and we're living in North Seattle at the time, and or you know, wherever it may be, it could be further away, Marysville, whatever it is, and you know, we would just wake up, get in the car, go to the property owner appointment, and all of a sudden the property owner is just like, no, I changed my mind. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And then, you know, I'm not, these are real moments where, and then after, and keep in mind, and then this is like during times we haven't made like any money at all. You know, months go by, we're just burning out of our savings account. And then, you know, there's moments where, you know, like a moment like that would happen where the property owner would shoo us off. And then we just, you know, go to a coffee shop nearby, just like contemplating life, like, man, are we doing the right thing? Yeah. And in those moments, we had each other's backs, like, hey man, it's all good. You know, like I'm just happy to be kicking it with you. At least we're trying this. At least we're doing
having
this.
that accountability. Yeah. Like, hey man, like we're gonna have to go through adversity to get where we want to go.
Absolutely. And I think every time we went through that adversity, we're grateful to have, you know, had, you know, like a business partnership as well as, you know, being brothers and best friends.
Absolutely.
So that element truly, you know, helped. And I think the differentiating factor between us and a lot of other entrepreneurs is that, you know, a lot of other entrepreneurs don't have folks that believe in them enough to just be like, hey, I'm gonna quit my, you know, high, you know, coveted income salary and try this thing with you without any proof.
Well, because I'm sure you guys had some people around you that were like, are you serious? Like you're gonna quit? You're gonna quit your 6-figure salary job and like do this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy that you guys were able to do that.
Well, and then going back to the question, right? Like when you have setting these goals, right? When we set our goals at the very beginning of this journey with the business, we started with not how, not what, but why, right? So we were like, why do we want to do this?
so
Let's
good.
set our intentions straight. And we actually just like meditated on it. We prayed on it. We like just sat quietly and just like thought about it, like just literally in a room and just started like having a conversation, like real heart to heart. And we were just like, you know what? The main reason we want to do this, like what's our end goal, is to make an impact on the world, right? Create a community, like, you know, like help children, like just change the world, right? And so we were like, okay, like now we have our goal, we have our why. It's like now everything we do will be asking, hey, is this in the right direction? Are we doing the right thing? Is this going to push us further? Is this person going to get us closer to our goal? If that answer is no, then we can walk away from it, right? Yeah. But the answer is yes. We can put all of our blood, sweat, and tears and energy toward that.
Definitely.
And we'll enjoy it because we're doing what we know is going to
make a difference.
And I think, and to add on to that, right? Like so our mission statement, and this is something that we repeat probably daily, but we set this mission statement at the beginning of our journey in 2016, before we made our first dollar. And that mission statement is, Vozy is a company that integrates real estate investing with culture, music, and technology to inspire positive change in the community. It's always to inspire positive change in the community, right? And so that is the why. And, you know, just coming from, you know, humble environments and coming from, you know, like folks that grew up in the village, right? That mentality of you know, hard work and you know, respect and giving back to folks, and you know, and just kind of the idea of, hey, we're not supposed to be here, but we're here. Type of mentality was given to us. You know, like we're grateful to have had that mentality given to us by our folks.
Absolutely.
And I think as we started progressing on our journey, we realized that, you know, there isn't, you know, coming from you know, like kind of the POC background, coming as immigrants, as, you know, just people of color in this country, the blueprint towards generational wealth isn't set. And
well, that's what I think is, like, when you come here as an immigrant, you kind of have like a back against the wall mentality. Because my dad's an immigrant from Syria, and he came here when he was 16 years old, was sleeping in his uncle's basement, and then he had to like figure out like, hey, like didn't go to college, right? He's like, what am I gonna do, right? So do you think when you're an immigrant, right, you kind of have like that back against the wall mentality of like you gotta make it, right? It's like that go-getter's mindset. Yeah. Absolutely. So yeah, man. I mean, this has been crazy, you guys, like having you guys on. I'm sure people have had their notepads on and their notepads out and been taking a ton of notes. I hope they have, because this has been like, I mean, I've taken a ton of value from this myself, and I'm sure Ben has as well. Definitely. And like I said, you guys, super honored to have you guys on today. So you guys, if you guys haven't checked them out, go check out Vozy, VOZHI on Instagram. Do you guys have a website? If you guys, you know, shout your guys yourselves out.
And then so it's VOZHI, and then his Instagram handle is City Key, like the
CITY city.key.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
Let's go, you guys. Well, you guys, if you guys enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Go check them out. Leave a thumbs up. And thank you guys for watching. Peace. Yes, sir.